were just fantastic. Because football is very hard, as you know. That you could, we could spend the rest of the night talking about the dreadful football films. It's really very, very rarely that you get a bit of football that seems realistic at all. But his plans were great. So I suspect it was probably budget and the rush, you know, the very limited number of weeks to get it done. That kind of forensic detail that you would have needed to depict football properly probably went by the wayside for budgetary reasons.
We'll just take one more question. I know that guy there, Scott.
Black Hoodie, yeah.
And I also think you're right about the whole soul music times because me and my friend used to play always right.
Great.
Four tops and play always that sort of thing.
Great.
But what exactly is it that speaks to you about soul music? I mean, I know you're saying it's time, but what exactly is it that speaks to you?
What is it that speaks? Well, first of all, there was America. And America is almost, people who've never been to America seem to know America. And it had that, and always will, I suppose, have that draw. Less so now, perhaps, since 9/11. But it seemed to have that draw, that attraction. Getting into a car and driving across America. Getting into a car in Dublin and driving to Galway doesn't have the same. You can be back in time for your dinner. You know, that's Ireland. It doesn't have the same appeal. Whereas even just the mere mention of Route 66, all these songs pop into your head.
I think for a lot of people, it's soul music. For a lot of people, not in America, why it's really condensed, really America is.
Yeah, and then there's Black America.
Yeah,
And these are glorious, glorious songs, I just think, you know, just listening to Otis Redding sing Dock of the Bay, you know, recorded 40-something years ago, and yet it could have been recorded yesterday or this morning, and it's just perfect, you know. And it's just, I don't know, I loved, when I was choosing the songs, I'd been reading a lot about soul music, and the stories about the recording of some of those songs. You know, Percy Sledge, When a Man Loves a Woman. There are different versions of what happened, you know. He broke down crying. He composed it as he went along. And these are the romantic versions of what happened, you know. Others that he just came in and sang the song and buggered off. And I think we attach emotion to songs that never had any real emotion. Like the guys who come into a studio and record 4 or 5 songs in a day, you know, and then they're on the Motown bus and touring America, the Motown bus, which had some of the greatest musical talent in the world, with the Supremes and the Four Tops and the Temptations, all in a bus. It's like getting on the 20, you know, getting on the 17A in Kilbarrack and going across the Finglas, and you go upstairs, Diana Ross and the Supremes are down at the back, and the Temptations are humming away on the left, and the Four Tops are singing, you know, Reach Out, I'll Be There. And Smokey Robinson, I think, had a car of his own because he'd married into the Gordy family, but his band were in the bus and they were touring, and great stories. Wilson Pickett having a gunfight with the Isley brothers in the car park of a studio somewhere. Great, and character James Brown. Every time he opened his mouth, he'd say something interesting. And Solomon Burke, and they weren't, you know, they'd talk bullshit and honesty in the same sentence. So they were great characters, and I just loved the idea of superimposing it on Ireland, you know. And it's just it had that appeal. I mean, Otis Redding's live album, you know, Live in London and Paris. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's the most powerful live music I've ever heard. And my big regret, of course, is that, you know, we'll never see him. But even if you go to YouTube and you look at some of the stuff that he did, it's just unbelievable. So timeless. So it's completely timeless. You don't listen to that music for nostalgic reasons. You know, it defies nostalgia, really.
just the very last question, Ray.
Very last to me. Yeah, just getting back on what you were saying earlier on about like certain scenes that you would have done differently in the commitments, and the certain things you would have done differently. I just wondered how you felt about the snapper. Stephen Frears developed that. Like, were you happy with that as a director?
Yeah.
Like, as you wrote it, obviously. I
Yeah.
read the Baritone trilogy, so I read the whole the three novels. But like when I saw the films, I was just just a question, obviously, how you felt about the snapper because it was such a big hit.
I was delighted with the snapper. It was filmed in my last year of teaching, and most of the location shots were in Kilbarrack, so I was able to get out in free classes and look at what was going on.
Yeah.
But there were things that happened. That when I met Stephen at Dublin Airport with Linda Miles, she co-produced the commitments and produced the snapper in the van. And we met him at Dublin Airport, and the first place we went out to was Kilbarrack, and we got up on the railway bridge there. So the flats were still there, and Stephen looked around and said, "This is lovely." And that was the decision. It was going to be filmed in Kilbarrack. And as I told you, he carried the book around all the time. We chatted a lot. And he went around, when the interior shots were being done in Ardmore, he went around to make sure there were no holy statues, that there was no leaking of the outsider's view. And he constantly asked me, "Is this all right? Is this?" Now I wasn't there all the time because I was teaching. But it was a very happy experience, in a way, because it had nothing to do with the film, but it just clicked, I think. And he commissioned the man, I can't remember his name at the moment, but he did the music for My Beautiful Laundrette. I don't know if you know the film, My Beautiful Laundrette. The kind of bubbly music that's on at the beginning. It's brilliant. So he commissioned them to do music for the snapper, and he asked me, "Well, what do you want?" And I said, just make sure it's not Irish. It shouldn't be Irish. This is a Dublin story. It's an urban story more than it's an Irish story. So to make sure he doesn't use Irish music as such. Not that I've anything against Irish music, although I do, but it's a different thing. But I went across to London once a week or once a fortnight to see the latest cut of the film. Sat and listened and sat and watched, and this diddly-o paddy music came on. And it was just uilleann pipes, bowrons, completely wrong, banjos. So it was kind of like I was watching a film that I really liked, The Rough Cut, the previous week. I'd watched full on. We talked about it afterwards. This time, looking at the exact same footage, I was going like that. I couldn't look. Sharon drunk, diddly up, diddly up and do. That's an Irish girl drunk, diddly up. It's a Quiet Man, great film, but this wasn't a Quiet Man. I was hideous, So nobody liked it really. So we had a chat with Stephen, and it was gone. And actually then, when they took out the music, they realised really the film's full of music anyway. Like, the radio's never off, the television's on all the time. So they just added that. I don't know where they found that great band, the Belfast band, who did the Elvis song at the beginning and the end. Kick the Can.
Lick the tins. Yeah. Yeah.
But something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I was of the three of them, I think the snapper is my favourite. I think. I think it was terrific, really terrific.
Okay, folks, we're going to have to wind it up. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Roddy Doyle. Thank you.